Welcome back yet again to the CGV YouTube channel. I'm Colin. I'm an automotive content creator, and I'm a key grip and a gaffer when I work with a crew. I like to bring you guys behind the scenes on some of the projects that I work on, and today I'm going to break down the VFX I did on a project that I recently got hired for. A full body paint protection film on a RIVIAN R1S. I'm going to start by saying that this is not a full tutorial. It's going to be strictly a breakdown. If you want to see a tutorial, check the links in the description for this creator right here. This is where I got some of the info. I'm pretty familiar with After Effects and I've used it for a lot of things. However, I've never used these like exact effects. And I stumbled across this YouTube channel the other day and I thought that this project would be a great opportunity to try some of these effects on. So here are the effects that we're going to be taking a look at right here. There are two effects used. One is kind of like this cool layer wave effect, and the other is, of course, the badge flip effect that you saw on the rear of the RIVIAN. Plus one more VFX shot that you probably didn't know was a VFX shot. I'll show you that later. So if you're not familiar with paint protection film, it's basically a clear layer of film, kind of like vinyl, that gets applied over the entire surface of the car. Some people just do the front end, some people do other panels, but this particular client wanted the entire thing done. Paint protection film is kind of like a layer between the paint and the exterior world. It keeps like those rock chips, any abrasion, maybe minor scuffing, tree limbs, branches and stuff. It keeps it from hitting the paint, and it's kind of like a self-mending type of film that will really just do an excellent job at protecting the exterior of your vehicle. So the reason that I'm telling you this is because I wanted you to have a good understanding of my motivation for the effects. You know, that kind of like wave, it looks like it's kind of like laying down and there's like this protective layer coming out. And I just thought it was a really cool effect that symbolized the protective qualities of this film. Since it is clear, it's not exactly like exciting to like watch go on. So I thought that having a little bit of motivating effect would really give it like a cool look and connect the viewer to what's happening. And with the badge flip, typically all of the badges and anything that's stuck to the paint is gonna have to come off during this process. So I thought it would be neat if at the end there was, you know, you see the badge pop off, do a flip, and then spin back on. I just thought it looked really cool, and it kind of, if you know, you know, and if you don't know, it kind of connects it for you. VFX are really cool, but just like lighting, if you don't necessarily have some sort of motivation for that lighting, it can often seem a little bit out of place, and while it might not be something that's striking or really takes you out of the experience, it will be something that's just kind of like, okay, that was an effect that happened, now what? So I really liked in this case, I had some good motivation for the effects, and I was able to take my time and kind of pull them off clean. I'm gonna go ahead and put the final version of the project at the end of the video, so stick around to check that out if you want to see the way that all of these shots weaved into the final product. I also have a video linked in the description to the lighting techniques that I used on this project as well. That's another video you can check out if you want to see, if you see something in this video and say, wow, that looks really good, and you want to see kind of a lighting breakdown and want to go a little more in depth, feel free to check that out, link in the description. Okay, so let's first go ahead and hop over into Premiere, which is where I made the first effect, and then we'll switch over to After Effects and I'll show you the rest. So here we are inside of Premiere. That's where I want to show you the first effect. This was the easiest one, probably by far. So, and that is this effect here. You see this like kind of like wave of blue kind of flushing over that film being laid onto the hood. So the way that this effect was achieved was with two layers. So I know that the timeline is a little busy right now, please forgive me, but there are actually, this is one video layer and this is one video layer right here. The rest of these are overlays and adjustment layers for color. This is the base clip, obviously, just kind of an orbiting shot of the film. The second layer is where the actual effects lay. And if I turn off this lower layer, you can see that this is what the upper layer looks like. It is just that blue kind of color. And again, the tutorial to this is linked in the description to another YouTube channel where I kind of learned this specific effect inside of Premiere. So it's kind of be a combination of this extract, fine edges, tint, turbulent displace, VR glow, and a blur effect, which sounds like a lot, but if you watch the tutorial, it's not too bad to do. It's a little bit taxing on Premiere. I'm sure there's a way to do this in After Effects as well, but I kind of like effects you can just stay inside of Premiere for. It's kind of nice. And then basically automating this extract effect. So you're moving the white input level, and that's what makes that effect kind of go from back to front like that, where it kind of makes that slide. So that's that automation right there. And of course, all of these settings inside of here you can play around with until you're blue in the face. You can make this effect look different. And this is kind of where I settled on. I feel like it told a story, had a point, it wasn't jarring, and the animation from back to front was really nice. Okay, so that was the first effect. Now we'll go ahead and move over to kind of the second effect, which is the same effect. However, now I have masked out this area because I didn't want the effect to spill over onto the windows or onto her hand or onto anything else that I didn't want it on. I only wanted that effect to kind of play out where the actual film was. And again, that was just done with some masking. Let me see if I can find the mask path here. Yeah, so here's one window that I masked out. You can see the edges. And here's the other window. I thought that I had masked out her hand, but I think that the actual effect, whatever parameters it's affecting, weren't affecting like a skin tone type of color, but it was affecting that like dark black shadow area. So I just wanted to go ahead and mask that off because otherwise it's not quite right. You know, the film isn't going on the windows. That's not what we're focusing on. Okay, now moving on to another effect that is the same thing. It's the same effect inside of Premiere. This time just around the vehicle. This is like kind of signifying, hey, this is done, all protected, swing, here you go. And you can see that I just put a mask over that car and then I tracked it. So it follows as the camera pushes in, and the effect is only affecting the vehicle and nothing around it, no surrounding areas. So yeah, that anytime you see that blue, it was all the same effect with just a combination of a mask or some fine tuning to fit the scene. So those were some of the more basic inside of Premiere effects. Now I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through this little badge flip right here inside of After Effects. So I'll pop that open and I'll be right back. So here we are inside of After Effects, and you can see if I turn all of these layers off, the original shot just looks like this. Just a slow orbit around that badge. And then I created sort of a clean slate or clean plate layer for it, which is just a duplicate of that shot. And then I used a content aware fill to kind of mask that area and essentially get rid of the badge. I mean, you can see that there's probably, if I turn these off, yeah, you know, it's just basically a black square. I'm not even sure that there's much texture in it. This is what content aware fill inside of After Effects came up with, which again, if you follow the tutorial that I linked in the description, you'll be able to do this no problem. So if I feel like I'm skipping over things, please remember this is not a tutorial, more of a breakdown. So it looks almost as if there is no badge, and you see it just fades in and fades out there because I wanted that to fade in and fade out, so the effect happens kind of in here, and then I wanted the real one, you know, fade that fill layer back out. Now for the spin layer. This was basically a mask of that original fill layer. So I masked out that badge and then turned it into a 3D layer so that it can be manipulated in 3D space. You see it's just doing a little toss. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this step right here is a little bit weird and it's gonna be different for every project. But getting After Effects usually doesn't know like how it's sitting, so you kind of have to figure out what plane it needs to flip correctly in. And honestly, this flip was pretty good, but the plane wasn't exactly right. But so that could take some fine tuning. You'll just have to play around with that part of it. And of course I added some motion blur to that as well, so that it looked like it was actually spinning and not just being able to see a crisp, rotation of an object spinning in space, because that your eyes don't see like that, and so it's jarring. It doesn't make any sense. And then to really put the icing on top, a reflection layer, which you can now see back here is kind of reflecting off of the background. And again, that reflection layer is actually not perfect. Again, that whole plane, like where it's sitting, I'm not a VFX designer. I'm not a like pro VFX person. But it's a little bit difficult to get all that to match up. So you'll have a little bit of fun if you decide to do this effect, getting all of that to kind of like line up and look natural to your eye. But it's a lot of fun, and I really encourage you to go do it anyways. So, you know, there is the completed effect. And I know there was a few things I kind of skipped over. And there's a lot of details to an effect like this, especially inside of After Effects. And that was the badge flip. Now I'm going to move on to that aforementioned effect that I said you may not have even noticed it was an effect. Okay, and that last effect was actually this shot right here that I showed you in the beginning. Maybe you didn't have any idea this was a VFX shot. I feel like this was probably one of the cleanest effects in the whole situation. And that is of the TV with his logo playing. So the original shot was just this. It was just a TV that did have his logo on it, but I have an animated version of his logo, and I thought it would be really cool to put that inside of the TV. This was just basically some masking and camera tracking. If you're familiar with After Effects and you've done any camera tracking, maybe to put like some text, to make it look like it's sitting in an environment, or just to track the motion with it, this is actually a semi-easy effect to pull off. You just use the 3D camera tracker and you analyze the scene, and then you get all these kind of like little targets that'll give you a place to track. So I tracked near the TV just so that anything I would do would follow the camera motion, and the image would stay where it needs to. And so it wouldn't just look like it's, hovering around. So I tracked it there, and I was really careful about the way that I oriented in 3D space that image so that it would match perfectly onto the TV, and the TV still had a little bit of the natural, like actual border that was there, and really pulled that in nice. Now there was one more thing that I had to do to make this effect look natural. And that is, if I wind this all the way to the back, you're actually going to see that the edge of the vehicle is cutting this off. What I did was ended up masking out just the very edge of the Rivian, and that is this layer here. It's just a very crude roto brush of the rear end. I just wanted to create a new layer and put it on top of this existing layer so that it looked like it was in front of it, because it was in real life. But when you start compositing like that, software has no idea where something should be in 3D depth, and it's just going to put it at the front because that's how it works. So that was kind of the final magic to that there. It was only there for just a brief second, but you just got to tidy up those little details to really sell the effect. The reason that I wanted to do this effect is because there is a nice animated logo, and it looked really clean, kind of orbiting around, and just concluding the video with this. Okay, and then here is the actual final finished video that was delivered to the client. that is it for this video. If you found anything in this video helpful or entertaining, please go ahead and like the video and then subscribe for future videos. If you'd like to keep up on social media, there's a link in the description that will give you access to all of our links where you can find us everywhere, including Discord, where you can join our server, you can hang out, you can ask questions, you can share your work, and just have a good time. So as always, thank you, and we'll catch you next time.